Sorry. I'm trying to jam like a 4-hour session into 4 minutes, so bear with me here. I don't think you could have actually planned this any better, because it's like what we saw with everybody. Thought I'd really take the time to at least highlight what it is that we're doing as we talk about technology, as we look at the evolution of business. And more importantly, we throw the word disruption and innovation everywhere. And maybe I'll back up and start with just talking a little bit about myself. Thanks, Alex. So did neural networking and neurofuzzing in 2006, went into marketing automation and business, and when data became a problem, I actually ended up going back and studying machine learning to try to solve problems that I couldn't solve anymore. I had the chance to work with some really awesome companies, Canadians and international, but I was always sort of in awe of how working with certain founders allowed us to compete with giants and win, and what made that really exciting without having to use the word disruption or innovation. And so I'll talk a little bit more about what Critical State Labs is, but I'm really someone here who's rallying behind the ecosystem to build sustainable businesses. Many of you who know me know I advocate a lot about bootstrapping and really building really sustainable, profitable companies. So, if any of you know Clay Christensen, I suggest you get to know him, but here I'll start with one of my favorite quotes. Today, if you're a startup, you're already disrupted. And I really wanted to just highlight this when we start talking about what really disruption is and what does it mean when we start throwing things about AI. Currently, what we do with our customers today is we really like to put them through sort of a crawl, walk, run. And I talk a lot about getting AI ready, because for any of you who actually employ AI, it's not really scalable. You can't put it in a box. And if you try, it's not really creating value. So I thought I'd start with a little bit of fun. I give you a chance to throw $1 million in one of these companies. Which one would you put your money into? A, B, X, Y? Show of hands, company X? I know. Company Y? All right. Now, what if I showed you this? So this is a real chart. In fact, a lot of times we now talk about this. Many people attend sessions and they say, hey, no, Netflix was a disruptor, but how come we didn't actually know that while it was happening? So last time I'm going to use the word disruption is the biggest disruption as we know it is that the value creation process has changed. And I know that sounds really difficult, but we really touched a lot on it today, and I wanted to highlight that when we use words like technology and AI and machine learning. I'm not going to get into this in details, but it's really around a function. And I've had the privilege of working with the Six Sigma founders. And when you ask him, would you do it again today? He actually says it wouldn't work. And ultimately, because financial monitoring is actually not the best way to challenge startups and enterprise to be AI ready, but also create value. So I'm just going to begin by talking about, I know I don't have much time left, but there's 5 value creation processes that we talk about often. And for many of us, we tend to think about the funnel as counting things or a financial model. A value creation process is really shifting, and technology is acting as an enabler. Do you guys remember when Steve Jobs says, when he reflected on his 1997 moment, it was really the moment when one of his friends asked him, which laptop would you recommend? And he didn't know how to answer that. You know, value creation is really around changing the behavior of our customers. It's a really complex problem both startups and enterprises find. And I'm just going to run through this really quickly, but if anyone's really interested, this is a really, really cool thesis we did with Rotman and Stanford. So, experience. When we talk about Netflix, we tend to think it's about content creation. They really changed the way we experience solutions. Engagement, Facebook, unlike MySpace, they actually connected us with a social and emotional community. They are at risk, but we won't talk about that. Motivation, what really drives us into wanting to continue to do this experience? Whole Foods, they wanted to actually just change the way quality foods were presented, and they were able to create that. Network and Moments, how to take on demand and keep continuously optimizing it. Many of you don't know the urban legend around Uber, but they originally created it so those limo drivers from the airport wouldn't actually have to, creepily follow you. They were able to use an app, but they tackled those moments. Southwest Airlines is another great example. New Balance, another great example. Customer speed of life. How do you actually keep up with this change of behavior, not building a process around applications that are predictable? A company's real value creation process is able to keep up with that, and Starbucks is a great example. So I'll just pause there. Thank you. This is really a 2-hour thing, but usually they give me 2 minutes or 2 hours. Any questions?
Yeah, what are the main ways enterprises use to manage risk with innovation? And the second question is, what are the main ways of monetizing innovation?
So that's a good one. So Jones and Verve are involved in critical state labs, and I think we've come to learn a few things that work. Innovation can't be built in silos. And at the same time, it's actually not a technology problem. It is a complex process problem. And you spoke earlier about automation. If you look at every enterprise prior to 1986, when the automation boom happened, every business or person involved in the company was connected with the outcomes of the business. If you look at now what's happening, there's a struggle because everyone's trying to innovate within these silos and not create a bridge. So how do companies start innovating is they go out of their silos and collaborate. In fact, Canada, why there is this awesome energy is we are the land of collaborators. So we work with the SAPs and Deloittes to work with startups as well, because those were some of the challenges we found trying to sell to enterprise. In terms of innovation, the first rule is don't try to label it innovation. You don't know once you're innovated if you're actually focusing on creating that change of customer behavior and actually adapting to it and building sustainability around it.
Oh, hi. Just the slide you had. Was that it? Sorry. The slide you had, the Netflix versus Blockbuster. I thought it was a great slide. So, what signals or metrics, if you took that as the truth, what signals or metrics do you think companies should be looking for in the first 3 years?
Yep, no, that's a good one. And I think it's a bit of this monitoring and using a financial system to look at it is what is really hard to create sustainable innovation. A couple of things around if you look at the experience. Were they able to actually change the customer's behavior without actually anticipating a predictable moment? That was really what I thought Netflix brought. Amazon, if you look at the list, Patagonia is another one. There's not, everyone is a technology company because it's an enabler, but we shouldn't really pigeonhole AI and machine learning and dismiss what a company's value is. It's going back to your values and enabling it.
Last question.
Hi.
Hey.
My question is, how do you see adaptability was a big segment on your presentation, and how do you see its focus shifting the traditional business model with, it being a big main corporate structure? Do you see it as kind of, I guess, the next step being smaller, more widespread, sectors or like divisions focusing on specialized aspects of the business rather than having it all together in one main conglomerate? Can you talk about it a bit?
Well, I think the challenge right now is it's not taken on as a big conglomerate. We're creating these silos, and data itself has been abundant, and there is this sort of ecology that we have to sort of shift from a bureaucracy, and really I think we're going to see some of this later, but it's the unstructured data that really is exciting, and how you look at all the different opportunities there. And one example of being ahead is tapping into unstructured data, but taking away the metrics of our traditional world, right? I think, you know, I talk to marketers and they're using metrics that come out of their email system. You talk to finance people and they're talking about usage of their credit cards. You're talking about, you know, customers and how do they create media programs and influencer programs, and they're just counting clicks. None of them are actually looking at this as a holistic view of what they're doing to continuously change behavior of their customers. But yes, talk to me if you want to learn more about unstructured data.
Thank you.
Thank you.